the social media platforms, then we can deal with them. Welcome to the show. Now, like I said, Francis Pasime Gitao is garnering for the Kajiado North parliamentary seat for the third time during this coming general election on the 9th of August. And he has managed to get the Jubilee ticket. So he's actually ready to rock and roll. I'm going to be and it's a long journey. Now, as always, like I always remind you, the Gigi Report is a platform for big, bold conversations, honest conversation. On a day, we have another political conversation. I said, Francis Pasime Gitao is a politician, like I said, and he's an urban planning and development expert and a Christian professional. And he has some very interesting qualifications here. He earned a bachelor's in construction technology from Jomo Kenyatta University, and also has a postgraduate qualification from on urban management, and this is from the Sheffield Hallam University in the UK. So he's very, very familiar with matters public, urban development, public infrastructure policy and stuff like that. And so we're going to be asking him along those lines. So welcome to the show, and let's get the conversation underway. So Francis, I'm very pleased to have you on the set. And again, congratulations that you now are officially, counting down to the 9th of August. And we pray that the Lord giving you grace, you're going to join the August House. So, but let's begin from the beginning. Tell us about your career background and what inspires you. Of course, apart from what I've mentioned, there are many other things. We need to hear your story. Where did you begin and what inspires you?
Gigi, as I said, it's my pleasure to be here. And as you did mention that my journey has come from far. Mm-hmm. And it began way just before the referendum that we had in 2005, mm-hmm. which was a yes and no referendum regarding the passage of our new constitutional dispensation. Mm-hmm. And how I did participate in that is because there was a push by the church to have the constitution, yes, passed, but with some amendment. And when that did not take place, it was therefore a question of whether we should pass it as it is or no. Mm-hmm. And the church had a no on it. Mm-hmm. And we gathered around the Kenya church. Mm-hmm. We used to meet at Ufungamano House with quite a number of other religious leaders. And we were tasked with disseminating the information to the churches to make sure that they understand why the church is rejecting based on some of the content that were detrimental to the faith that we hang on. Mm-hmm. And therefore, that was my first engagement, active engagement mm-hmm. with politics. Before then, of course, what prodded me into the politics was purely developmental gaps within mm-hmm. my area of residence. Mm-hmm. And the governance gaps I would see. Sometimes I would hear a project has been executed at a certain amount. And as you have heard, I am in the construction industry. And I would be able to tell, even without counting, that figure is bloated. And I would rise up to question the politicians that would be there. Mm-hmm. And at one point, I wanted to prove that my member of parliament was wrong. Mm-hmm. Because every time they would say that a classroom has been built with 750,000, mm-hmm. 2004, 2006. Mm-hmm. And in my mind, I knew it was not right. So I went into a community project. And we were putting up a community block of 2 rooms. And I made sure they were the size of classrooms. So that I could be able to prove that there was no value for money. Mm-hmm. And I remember very well that we actually did the 2 rooms with everything ready like a classroom mm-hmm. with 450,000 then. And ordinarily, it would cost the office of the MP 1.5 million. And therefore, I realized a lot is being wasted in the name of developing the public. Mm-hmm. And public would take it like it's like a favor. Mm-hmm. They did not understand they were being defrauded. And those kinds of engagements mm-hmm. led me to thinking things are not right.
Okay.
And of course, our God is a God of justice.
Yes.
And our faith is based on justice. And I realized there was something here which was not right.
Okay.
And when I weighed against the personalities that were in the leadership, I realized I was expecting too much from them because they were doing exactly what is in them. And expecting them to do right was too much.
All right.
And therefore, I thought it to myself that it takes a regenerate man to execute a regeneration within a society.
Absolutely.
And as I waited, I thought upon myself, could I be waiting for something that will never come? That I'm expecting justice from people who do not have the capacity to execute that justice.
That's true.
And that's why during my engagement in the 2005 referendum campaigns, I actually realized that we have to play the role, but you cannot complain if you are not engaging to influence the output.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. That's massive. That's massive. But I would imagine that your leadership, journey must have started a little bit earlier. Maybe tell us about were you a leader? Did you discover your leadership at the university? And, as you were growing up, you must have. And I really want you to be brief because we have political matters to discuss.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think, Gigi, my leadership is childhood.
All right.
My leadership is childhood.
Uh-huh.
Even when I was in lower primary,
right,
I used to gather boys around myself.
Okay.
And organize some games.
Right.
And even organize some awards.
Uh-huh.
And it went all the way, even when I went to the secondary school. I was a dormitory prefect.
Right.
When I went to the University of Jomo Kenyatta, I was even the chairman of the Christian Union. Of course, I was one time a Sunday school superintendent. I became the mission coordinator. I became eventually the chairman of the Christian Union.
Okay.
And even thereafter, Jomo Kenyatta has a forum of, we call associates, former Christian Union members. I became the chairman even when I left outside. So right. Basically, in terms of, and the time I was the chairman of the Christian Union, right. I was at the same time my class coordinator for my course.
Okay.
So I was doubling up on the spiritual leadership and the secular leadership.
Absolutely.
So basically, my leadership has come from far. When I was a youth, I was already an elder of the church before I even got married. I was actually in charge of development in the church that particular time.
Okay.
So my leadership is kind of inherent.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think there is a sense in which when you have that leadership, I would say bag, within your system, every time you see something that needs to be done, you step to the plate, you step out into that. Right. And then, so you've described how you got inspired by seeing the difference between, for example, public resources being misused. You have the technical background and all that. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about the postgraduate, the urban thing. You studied that. How did that turn out? My life was actually revolutionized when I went to Israel in 1999. Okay.
To study that postgraduate course I am talking about, economic and financial planning for rural development.
Okay.
And I was able to understand how a rocky country can be self-dependent.
Okay.
From a rural perspective. And I had gone there based on my programs that I was engaged in, like the water project I've just mentioned, the classrooms. I had done those ones already.
Okay.
That is the platform that actually gave me the card to be able to go to do that study in Israel.
Okay.
I engaged with the people from all over Africa. And it became my eye-opener to see that we actually have the potential to change our environment. And then later on, when I came back to Kenya, I was also able to get an opportunity to go for another postgraduate study in Britain. And I went to study housing policy and practice. I was the only black man in that room. In fact, I was the only person from outside the Britons. I was the only, my classmates were Britons.
Yes.
So I was the only person odd out, so they say.
Yes.
And during the study, I was able to look at a number of things. I remember we took one of our case studies to Liverpool.
Okay.
Liverpool used to be a harbour city. and it used to be dependent on the coal that used to make the steel. Then the city died. You know, cities die.
Yeah.
The cities die.
Yeah.
And you have to think of a way of rejuvenating and, you know, bringing back, re-engineering the city.
Yeah, after the coal industry
Yes,
collapsed.
it died and then it collapsed.
Liverpool
They
was
had
basically...
to reinvent the city.
Okay.
And it became kind of a tourism destination, a recreational city.
Yes.
And the time I was studying in Britain in 2000, 2001, they had one of the biggest regenerational projects in Europe, which was called the Paradise Project.
Okay.
Which was purely to revitalize the entire city of Liverpool.
Okay.
And I was able to see how you can turn around dead situations.
Right.
Into things that are able to glow light. And within the same time, we were given an opportunity to be able to visit Barcelona.
Okay.
Barcelona, from a technical perspective, is referred to as the city of architecture.
Okay.
Where you really see and touch architecture. Clean city, clean coastlines. And this just took me back to our country.
Yes.
The coastlines, our dirty streets, our decaying cities, disfranchised communities. And I said, why?
Dry taps.
I was one of the best, I particularly on the matters of urban planning and development. I was the best in my class.
Okay.
Say then, why do we have the best? Most of the Kenyan students who go abroad, you hear they were the best.
Yes.
Where does this best go to when we come back to our country?
Okay.
And it became an issue of bother, and I started getting very, very involved on matters urban development and management.
Absolutely.
And it is even thereafter that I also still decided to further my studies, and I went to Nairobi University to have a master's, another master's in urban management.
Right.
And it is the same time we were doing the constitutional change. Even the issues about the Urban Areas and Cities Act was being crafted. The Devolution Act was being crafted. So I got very interested, and actually behind the scenes, I was following up the commissions that were doing all these things. And I was able to understand how this devolution, where it is coming from and where it is ended.
Absolutely.
And therefore, that is why the issues of urban have really been my heartbeat.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I want us actually to dive into that before we come to the, to the political side, the politicking part of it. What are some of the problems or the challenges that actually bedevil our cities and of course peri-urban, situation? You come from Kajiado. It's really part of the outskirts of Nairobi. It's a growing urban, center and all that. What are some of the key issues? You see, it's very puzzling, what's going on in our country.
Yeah, but Gigi, it's not by surprise.
Yeah.
I think it is largely in Africa. I may want to say that we have the old matatu mentality syndrome.
Okay.
Where the matatu is never full.
Okay.
There is always room for one more person.
Okay.
And you know what eventually will happen. When you continue to add one more person, basically there will be suffocation.
Okay.
Because you are scrambling for the same space and the same air inside.
All right.
There is no difference between that and cities and satellite towns. And that's why you would even hear people talking about urban metabolism, because just like the digestion and all that,
yes,
those things are there.
Yes.
You see, that's why cities outside Africa and some part of Africa,
yeah,
they would call what they call a green belt.
Right.
They mark it.
Yes.
This city cannot grow beyond this.
Yes.
Why? The growth of a city is supposed to be proportionate to the possibility of making the resources available for that city.
Okay.
If you have only water for 100,000 people,
yes,
why do you allow the city to get to 200,000? Where will you get the water from? If you have only capacity to be able to offer sewerage for 100,000 people,
yes,
why do you want to get to 1 million? Why can't you just go and introduce another city somewhere?
Right.
And people get there.
Yes.
So I think it's a high time we became deliberate in Africa in defining the boundaries of our cities.
Right.
And that is the whole issue about offering charters. For a city or a municipality to be given a charter, it means you have to have a defined boundary.
Okay.
It means you have to have a defined population.
Right.
It means you have to have a defined resource base. That is why the urban areas and cities has gone into the pain of telling you the infrastructural background and support system you must have to be called a city and a municipality.
Yes.
So basically, but the problem with Africa, nobody is keen on ensuring the proportionality of these things. And we pretend to get surprised when things just collapse. It should never be a surprise, because there must be a matching. There must be a matching of resources and the population that can be supported, actually, including industrial and economic development. We are crying of joblessness. Why are we surprised? The industries we have created cannot support the population base that we are creating.
Absolutely. Yeah. Speaking about matching infrastructure and populations, and I want you to comment about this, because it's something that is quite obvious, although not to everyone. For example, let's take a place like Kireresh or Kilimani. That place was designed as normal home, individual houses. I think a quarter
single
dwelling environment. And then, of course, Nairobians and Kenyans, as innovative as we are, and thank God for our innovation, that was all overrun. And now we have blocks and blocks and blocks coming up, springing up everywhere. But you have the same sewer line, expected to serve almost 5 times, 10 times the population. Is that the problem we are dealing with in African cities?
Yeah, actually we shouldn't even go for Upper Hill.
Yes.
Upper Hill now is full of towers.
Yes.
Almost towers of Babel.
Yes.
And for a long time, the sewer trunk line that was going to Nandora was the same.
It was...
During my case study, when I was doing my master's in urban management,
yes,
it came as a shock to me to realize Mudhurwa does not have a sewage system in the CBD.
Yes.
It did not have electricity in the CBD here.
Yes.
So the problem is, I think the biggest question should be, who is in charge and what is he or she doing?
Okay.
Because every segment of the city, the urban space is very scarce and very expensive. We cannot afford to underutilize it.
Yes.
So we need to account for every urban space that we have.
Okay.
And this is some of the things that the PSAs and the ministers should be doing. They should be accounting. There should be an output in terms of GDP allocated to each and every space that we have.
All right.
If we were to do that, we would not have dead spaces within urban institutions.
Okay.
But the reason why we are having is because we are very casual, we are very peripheral, we are very pedestrian in the responsibilities that we get as leaders. And this need to change if our country has to change.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, as you follow this conversation, this is one of the most amazing conversations. We are talking about public, my friend here is garnering for the public office. And I tell you, he has something up his sleeves. Lots of problems we face in these cities of ours, completely pedestrian planning, nothing really anywhere. You're going to hear more. So stay tuned as we continue with this conversation. So, my brother, so you have, I think you clearly understand what exactly it means to manage public resources in our growing cities. Let me call them that. Do you feel strongly you're going to end up in parliament after August 9?
Yeah, my political journey, as I did state during the beginning, is quite incredible.
Yes.
This is my 4th time.
Okay.
I vied in 2012.
Right.
As a by-election when we lost our member of parliament, the late George Saitoti.
Okay.
Actually, it's my 4th time, yes.
Yes.
Because 2007, we were among the first Christian with Bishop Moiro.
Right.
To tell Kenyans a Christian can vie and remain a Christian.
Right.
Many Kenyans did not believe us.
Yes.
But we went to the box.
Okay.
I also went up to the box that particular time.
Right.
With all the temptations to be bold not to vie.
Right.
But we were determined to keep our faith.
Right.
And we went to the ballot. Come 2012, there was a by-election in my constituency. I equally vied and went to the end.
Right.
Come 2013,
Right.
I vied again, but in a small party called GNU, which was headed by Mwangi Kionjori.
All right.
I can tell you, despite the euphoria of the big parties,
Right.
the NASA and the Jubilee, the Jubilee then, I managed to have almost 15,000 votes.
Okay.
In between the teeth of the two giants.
Right.
It occurred to me what euphoria can do.
Right.
That on Friday, everybody was singing about Parsimei.
Right.
Because for me, I cut across as a leader, not as a tribe or a political dispensation.
Yes.
But I think I had not learned enough the phenomenon that occurred in Jesus' life when people laid down clothes for him in the night.
Yes.
And in the morning, the same crowd was denouncing him.
All right.
So after the euphoria and the presidential candidates of the two big political parties passed by, we were left there wondering what has happened.
Right.
And therefore, 2017, when I vied, I said I want nothing to do with the political parties. I want to be an independent candidate.
Okay.
Because the terrain of the political campaign in Kenya is very, very unjust.
Okay.
It's not easy. It's not easy. You must have the marks of that treachery to be able to survive.
Right.
But little did I know, it's so easy to be suffocated when you are an independent candidate. Because you have no support systems at all. It's you and you alone.
All right.
And that's how, again. But I want to be so glad that if you listened to the entire architecture of Kenya as we speak today,
right,
I hope they will sustain that spirit. Because it's like everybody is saying it's not about party, it's not about anything, it's about the persons.
Okay.
And I want to thank God even for, I remember just before our Jubilee deputy president designate was designated.
Yes.
She was always on the social media saying, even if I have a candidate in my party and you found a better candidate in another party,
yes,
go for the better candidate.
Right.
So I hope this is going to be sustained.
Right.
But of course, having learned my lesson,
yes,
I decided I will never be in a small party or independent. And I thank God today, at least I'm carrying the flag for Jubilee in Kajiado North constituency.
Okay.
And therefore, there is unlikelihood that I'll be affected by the euphoria. Perhaps I'll be affected by the euphoria if it ever occurs.
Okay.
But I don't want to assume the euphoria. I'm working hard. You ask me how is it faring?
Yes.
I'm working hard day and night.
Yeah.
The best way I know how.
Right.
I'm coming from an evangelical background.
All right.
I've told you I've been the mission coordinator. So the best way I know is door to door.
Yes.
And I am convinced if I'm able to convince people to go to heaven,
yes,
where I have not been,
yes,
and they agree.
Yes.
Similarly, even on these matters of politics. But the good thing, I have a track record. I've told you since 1980s, I've been involved in my local area development.
Okay.
And that's why I've been even persuading the people. Let's not just look at the visions and the dreams and the aspirations of the leaders. Let's face their track record a bit.
Okay.
And see whether there is a coherence between what they are promising and what they have done in their life.
Absolutely.
Because if you have no track record to show, it's unlikely that you are likely to succeed in what you are promising.
Absolutely.
And that is an element and a virtue that Kenyans need to check. You cannot promise heaven if you have not been on the journey to heaven.
Absolutely. 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 Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, I am carried away. My friend here, Francis Parsimei, he is going all the way for the member of parliament of Kajiado North. Kajiado North is actually just across here, Gong. It's very much part of Nairobi in many ways, urbanized, very, very interesting place, former jurisdiction of the former vice president of this nation, Saitoti, Mr. Saitoti. And so that's a very big feat. And so we are going to go for a short break. When we come back, we're going to continue on that conversation. We're going to go back to how things are shaping up for, in this political arena And then we're going to also go into the other issues about what it takes to be successful in politics. All right, don't go away. Take a short break. We're coming back shortly.
Is every pastor's wife carrying the title pastor, really a pastor?
It's not always the case that the pastor's wife is a pastor also by calling.
In the body of Christ, certain wives have given up because probably they feel they haven't gotten the right leadership from their own husbands.
We need to learn to know our husbands after the Spirit so that we are able to submit to them.
We'll be encouraging the pastor's wife.
Welcome back. This is the Gigi Report. We are having a conversation here. The quest for public office. My guest is Francis Pasmei, and he's going for the parliamentary seat, Kajiado North constituency. And he's been at it 4 times and still going. So August 9th, he is going to be on the ballot box. He's been given the ticket by, well, not given the ticket, he took, or something like that. He's going to tell us about that. We are talking about how to get it done and if, what it takes to make a difference. So, Francis,
Yes.
You've described how it's very volatile. You know, when you have learned a lot of lessons along the way.
Yes.
So this time around, you decided you're going to go with a big political party.
Yes.
How easy was it to first of all get the that famous piece of paper from the Jubilee? You know, you are the bona fide candidate. And what did you have to do that together?
It hasn't been very easy. The incumbent member of parliament, who I have been competing very closely with,
Yes.
actually decided to run as a deputy governor within my county.
All right.
So kind of the vacancy was falling vacant.
Okay.
And therefore, every person felt this is a good opportunity for them.
Yes.
For me, it was not a good opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
It is a usual call for service.
All right.
Because I'm never an opportunist.
All right.
But everybody saw a vacant position.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I took time to announce my candidature.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody was very excited. Pasmei is not coming. Until I came. And everything disrupted. Some actually people disappeared. Because they were hoping that I will not be running.
Okay.
So they disappeared. We were about 5 of us who were aspiring to get the Jubilee ticket.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, there was this process of the consensus.
Mm-hmm.
And it was first done by my constituency.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, we were the case study. We were the model that was picked by the Jubilee.
Okay.
Because what happened when we realized, I used to have a slogan during my previous campaigns, saying that usipojipanga utapangwa.
Yes.
And I told my colleagues, if we do not initiate this process,
Yes.
to get our own product,
Yes.
then we should be ready for any product that will be brought to us.
Okay.
And I did caution them, we need to see it. So we sat for several meetings, and we could not agree after some time. But we had agreed to some extent. And we decided to seek counsel from the party.
All right.
And we were told that we can bring in eminent persons to guide us and to help us get to the consensus where we had reached. And it is at that point we did agree that each of the aspirants to bring about 2 elders.
Okay.
So the elders will sit together, create a criteria which they were going to use, sell the criteria to the aspirants. When the aspirants approve the criteria, then they use the criteria to assess who the candidate will be.
Okay.
And that's exactly what we did.
Oh, wow.
And we had even representative from the religious leaders and from the Christian. We had one of the pastors represented. And the governor candidate was represented by 1 elder, and the deputy was represented by 1 elder. So altogether we had about 15 elders. After 2 days, it took us the final day 15 hours of grueling analysis of each of the candidates, both the MCAs and the parliamentary. But I really want to thank God that after all that, I was interviewed. We remained 2 candidates who could not agree among us ourselves.
Right.
The others dropped down, some in my favor, some in the favor of the decision that was to be made by the elders. So eventually what happened, 15 out of 15 elders decided it was me.
Okay.
Even those who had been appointed by my competitors.
All right.
Found the worthiness of my candidature.
Okay.
And therefore, they made a recommendation to the party.
Okay.
And the party purely issued me with a ticket based on the recommendations of the elders who were appointed by the aspirants.
Okay.
So basically that is how I have the ticket for Jubilee.
Absolutely. And that's very puzzling, because what you are basically describing, it's really some of the intrigues behind the scenes sort of scenarios, which, our viewers, are Christian bishops, pastors, they probably don't get into the down and dirty with politics. Yeah. But you're actually describing that you have to be proactive. Yes. Even if you are the politician yourself, yes, you can't just sit back and hope that people are going to favor you. You have to get into the intricacies of the whole matter.
To make, I want to make it look very funny.
Yeah.
Actually, this process of getting to agree.
Yes.
Because as I mentioned to you, I came into the process slightly after others had announced.
Okay.
And I was the marked person.
Right.
Because I was the only odd person out. I was the only person they were fearing.
Yes.
So they actually had decided to start these meetings without me.
Right.
I decided to get crushed.
All right.
I get crushed and championed them, the meetings.
Yes.
So this is the so-called turning a lemon into a lemonade.
Yes.
That's exactly what I did. I could have sat back and said I'm not going to join them because they are basically scheming against me.
Yes.
But I went and I told them I'm an equal shareholder in the Jubilee. So I went into the discussion and I was able to influence from within.
Yes.
And that's how we were actually able to get the final product that we got.
Yes.
So everybody participated. And therefore, although there will always be a complainant,
yes,
but the process was very participatory. So basically, there is no shortcut to an output that you enjoy other than participating.
Absolutely.
One will have to participate.
Absolutely. And that leads me now to wanting to ask you, of course, you want to go into parliament. You've tried, you've been in the process for 4 times. What really does it take to make a difference in parliament? The parliament is the representative house, is the place where we have all these 290 representatives from all the 290 constituencies. Are they? Yes, 290. Then once you add the nominated ones and all that, then the numbers go up. Yeah. So you have all these men and women. How do you plan to make a difference? And because you haven't been there, but what's your vision like?
Gigi, allow me to start from my point of perception.
Yes.
About our Kenyan politics.
Yes.
And where we have gone wrong in the past, even as a nation.
Okay.
And why during the one party regime, we had a big issue. We have a scenario, where a political party offers one of their own members to be a candidate for the president.
Okay.
But the same political party want to own this particular person, even when this person has become the president.
Okay.
At the expense of the other countrymen and women.
Okay.
And that has been our problem.
Okay.
Because what need to dawn on the Kenya political parties is that whenever you actually offer your candidate to be a presidential candidate, you are relinquishing that candidate to the Republic of Kenya.
Okay.
And when that candidate passes the exam of being the president of the country, it's no longer the benefit of your party, the way they say it's our time to eat as a political party.
Yes.
That candidate become a candidate for the president, for the country. And if only we could be able to demystify that and ensure an elected, I like the way the Jubilee candidate was appointed. When His Excellency, the former Prime Minister, who is now the presidential designate of Jubilee, Mama Ida pronounced that she has offered him to the country. That symbolism is very critical.
Yes.
Because what you are basically saying, you have given this person out. When you give out your daughter to be married, if you try to control your daughter, you will never have a home for your daughter.
Right.
It will never happen. You need to release them practically and in every other manner.
Okay.
Similarly, we have a problem in our National Assembly. The reason why the new political dispensation brought us county assembly and national assembly, there are some things that ought to be left at the county level. The oversight, the policies, the discussions are supposed to be more oriented to the local devolved units.
Exactly.
When we come to the National Assembly, this is where we ought to see patriotism and nationalism at its best.
Okay.
But the problem is we seem to be bringing people from the village, but the village remains in their mind.
Okay.
We have so many members of parliament. When you listen to their arguments, they are never for national integration. They are still discussing about their village.
Right.
And they have been brought on the platform of the National Assembly, national matters,
Right.
national engagement, national comprehension. This is what they should be engaging. Policy that cut across. But the majority of them, you still find them discussing about their village. And that is where we need to transition. As for me, this is what I'm bringing on board. A total change in the mindset. Who are we? What do we represent? Who should, I'm from Kajiado, but it ought to be that when somebody from Mombasa sees Parsimei, he should see a Kenyan leader. Somebody from Northeastern should see a Kenyan leader. I should not wear the tag of a guy from Kajiado. I'm in the National Assembly.
Right.
The Karoe bill that transformed this Kenya by bringing CDF. When we are talking about CDF, we remember Karoe as a national figure. Then the bill that did transform a number of things in the financing sector. These are the things that we ought to see. But eventually I want to close by saying that if you want to go far as a leader, be there for the people, do it for the people, and do it with the people.
Absolutely.
Do it for the people and do it with the people.
Okay.
If you go to America,
Right.
I've not been there,
Yes.
and Mexico,
Right.
the border is a line,
Yes.
just a fence.
Yes.
But across Mexico, there is a very high rate of crime. The GDP is very low. Unemployment is very high.
Yes.
Poverty is very high. Lifespan is very short. And the opposite is happening in America.
Okay.
Research was carried out, and it is written in the book, Why Nations Fail.
Okay.
And it is stated very clearly, the cross-cutting reason why that happens, in America, they are involved in every bit of their decisions that affect their life daily. But the other side, it is decided for them. They rarely participate. Sometimes not because they have been denied that opportunity. It's because they are just lax. They just ignore issues. But in America, they are even concerned of the profit made by private companies.
Right.
The circumstances under which that profit was made. They are involved in the day-to-day affairs of their lives. And that has made the whole difference of the two worlds, despite being divided by a border.
Okay.
In this Kenya, the Constitution 2010 is not there by mistake emphasizing on public participation.
Okay.
But Kenyans don't participate, particularly the church.
Where is the voice of the Christian?
I think we have a long way to go in learning the corporate Christ. You know, the corporate Christ.
Yes, tell us more about
the corporate nature of our Lord Jesus Christ.
Yes.
All the genius policies and strategies employed by the most successful companies,
yes,
go to the Bible and you'll find them there.
Yes.
You will find them there. But, you know, the book that says, marketplace, the preachers of the marketplace.
Yes.
Christians have forgotten that in every sector, they may never get an opportunity to preach in the pulpit.
Yes.
But their pulpit is wherever they are engaged in a day-to-day basis.
Absolutely.
In what they do and the manner in which they do it.
Right.
When I was in college many years back, somebody told us that the Christian army is the only army that shoots the last bullet to their wounded soldiers.
Yes.
Unfortunately.
Yes.
But in the philosophy of army, they will never leave behind even their wounded soldier.
Exactly.
They will drag that soldier until they get to their destination with their wounded soldier.
Okay.
This need to be the guiding philosophy in the Christendom. But the problem is the trust for each other, the faith. As you rightly say, our bishop was shot left, right, because people thought that is not the calling of a Christian. Read all the kings of the past.
Right.
They all have their genesis from the scriptures.
Right.
The Davids, the everybody else, the Esthers, they are all anchored on the Bible. We are not saying any secular person should not be elected. But we are saying even the secular nation, we did just discuss before we started that America, although not practicing a lot of Christianity, but their policies are embedded on the word of God.
They are as Christian a nation as any nation can be Christian, including their constitution.
Exactly.
Even if it doesn't quote, last night I was arguing with some young man because he thinks that our Kenyan constitution is secular because it doesn't have a Bible verse on it. And the truth is, you don't have to have a Bible line in our constitution for our constitution to be Christian. The very Bill of Rights, for example, it is as Christian an idea as they come. As a matter of, well, anyway, you are my guest today, so you're the one to tell us. So, why do Christians give up so quickly? Why are you still seeking for parliamentary seat the fourth time round? Why did Moiro quit? I'm asking all those questions because I think there is a real problem.
I think for me, from the beginning, I had the realization that I was not called to be an ordained pulpit preacher.
Okay.
But I was ordained to be the support system of the body of Jesus Christ.
That's a very good vision.
From the beginning.
From the
time I came from college,
yes,
I knew that was my calling.
Okay.
There are many who told me a perfect preacher you can be.
Yes.
I said, yes, I am a perfect preacher, but I'm not called at the pulpit.
Okay.
I'm called into the marketplace.
Okay.
And I think that's where I get my resilience.
Right.
Because there are less guns and less bullets, Christian guns and bullets.
Yes.
In my environment. Perhaps there are more guns and bullets within Bishop Moiro's environment because what surrounds him are Christian and they keep shooting. They keep shooting.
Okay.
But in my environment, of course, I engage with people who are not even Christian.
Yes.
Who actually a number of times would inspire you.
Yes.
They will tell you you have what it takes.
Yes.
Some of them will actually hold your hand. They will even support you.
Yes.
Because they can see something good in you.
All right.
But there is a misunderstanding about the called to heaven and the time to be in heaven.
Right.
Because you cannot go to heaven. Even Jesus asserted. He said and he prayed.
Yes.
They are in the world but not of the world.
Yes.
I'm praying they remain there. So Jesus had the audacity to say we have to remain.
Yes.
But we cannot remain idle.
Yes.
We need, even Jesus did not just preach to people.
Yes.
At times he fed them.
Yes.
This is all governance and politics. Politics is about sharing resources.
Exactly.
Our Savior was in politics, determined whether you will have food on the table and how much food you have.
Okay.
Because that is about affordability.
Right.
Politics decides and determines where you are going to be able to live because of also an issue of affordability.
Yes.
And affordability is about the taxes.
Yes.
It's about the incentives.
Yes.
It's about the concessions that you get from the government. It's about the creation of employment. All those things have a lot to do with the politics.
Okay.
So if you understand the list of them, no wonder then you will have the list of it.
Right.
And this is why Christians need to get indulged. Perhaps somebody should carry out a research between the children of the so-called Christians and the ones who are not Christians, who are more jobless than the others. And they need to ask themselves why. They need to ask themselves why.
What is your suspicion?
My suspicion is, the Bible is very clear.
Yes.
My people perish because of lack of knowledge.
So it's very likely that some of the true Christians
some
are
things
jobless.
Not
more.
require any miracle. They just need people who will be able to tell you, by the way, there are some online jobs. You can actually earn money right in your house as long as you have a laptop.
All right.
But the problem is interaction. We have left this world to the people we perceive they are of this world. Yet they are our brothers.
Right.
They are our telling them the riches. And yet we want their riches.
Absolutely, absolutely. They are going to suspect all kinds of things. You know how you got the money, because we even don't understand how comes you don't have money. Anyway, so that's another story. It's another story. So we kind of have to bring this to an. I really feel that I want to ask you. How well a campaign process, which also involves some bit of money, are you getting the support you need from brothers and sisters? You know,
It's first of all,
that is the answer. I like that.
Yes. How will they? And so you just tell the Lord, forgive them. They don't know what they are doing. We are getting more support from our friends. Who are our peers, our comrades.
Yes.
We get more help from that side.
A guy with a hardware down the road says, no,
Exactly.
Mweshmiwa, I'm going to support you.
Yes. Somebody just, even who doesn't know me, but through a friend say, I'm going. But I want to say, there are very many good Kenyans.
Right.
And a lot of prayers.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, as you're following this conversation, maybe, and if you have spent zero, then perhaps you shouldn't be talking politics. Yeah, you know, so it's really an indictment. So, Francis, before we end, I always ask people, I always like asking my guests, what else are we not talking about? You say, people that are watching us.
I'm praying that things are going to change to be voters in the first place.
Yes.
Which has been very unfortunate, and most of it has been from the young people. And we want to appeal to them. One vote can make a difference.
Okay.
And you can't give up. I want to believe. I am seeing a lot of optimism because I'm the only one.
Right.
And I would remember back, there used to be some who are then Kinakoigo Amwere. They influence everything.
Yes.
They impacted everything. So you don't need the 369. I think, and those people that God will bring to parliament, God always has remnants.
Okay.
He will not be 7. And we'll be having Komukonji with them.
Right.
How to change this country.
Absolutely.
How to do for the people and with the people.
Okay.
How to turn our National Assembly to be a national platform. And platform of mediocrity. Yes.
Now, as we begin to wrap up, I'm sure there's, you know, I want to give you 30 seconds to look at that camera and call them out. Tell them to come in and support you as we wrap this up.
I would want to urge the people of Kajiado North, then do not expect to participate. In fact, you have no moral authority to complain about the output. And I would urge everyone to come and participate, both